Hey YouTube, JoeBoy here. So, let's talk about One Piece chapter 917. And so let's talk about the beginning of this chapter and Bellamy's cover story. In one of his previous cover story panels, it was basically stated that Bellamy had retired. But it seems as though Oda is creating some sort of conflict, giving him a reason to come back. As we all expected that he would do eventually, Bellamy is going to join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, and if he doesn't, it would be kind of disappointing. So yeah, I really do believe that Bellamy is coming to the Straw Hats eventually to give them a flag that he will make a new Jolly Roger that, according to this cover story, will be basically indestructible. And I think to a lot of you this may look a bit inconsequential, but to the One Piece world in Oda and the Straw Hats, it is definitely not. If you guys remember back to the Davy Back fight arc with Foxy, we get a sense of what it means to have a Jolly Roger and what it means to have that Jolly Roger destroyed or taken away. Essentially, if your Jolly Roger is completely destroyed or stolen from you, then that dissolves your crew. In the Davy Back fight, Luffy decides to take Foxy's Jolly Roger so that they can no longer sail under it, and everything associated with that Jolly Roger, everything that the crew had accomplished to that point in time, is essentially destroyed. I know that it's easy to think, well, okay, your Jolly Roger got stolen, you can create a new one, but for pirates there's some sort of code in which that's just not allowed. And of course the Straw Hats know of this and would follow the rules. So the destruction of the Straw Hats' Jolly Roger, if it ever happened, or if it was ever in danger of happening, would be really sad. I'm definitely sure that Oda was sort of thinking about this at the end of Whole Cake Island when we see the Straw Hats' Jolly Roger floating on the water. But I think that given this context, it is necessary, straight up necessary, for the Straw Hats to have a cool flag that just can't be destroyed, period. Maybe it can still be stolen, but if it can be stolen, it can be stolen back, but it definitely can't be destroyed. I like that. But yeah, to the chapter itself, Luffy and company are continuing to just completely overpower anybody that is present in Bakura Town. If Oda didn't make it clear before, he's made it abundantly clear in this chapter that until a calamity shows up, they are not threatened. But of course, that is precisely the fear that Okiku brought to our attention in this chapter. Hold'em is pretty strong, but to be honest with you, it's not Hold'em that we're scared of, it's who stands behind Hold'em. Jack the Drought, who is definitely alive as the vast majority of the community thought. Which is kind of funny to think about because back in Zou, so many people were pissed off that Jack was defeated the way that he was. All sorts of little tantrums, I can tell you. So yeah, there's a few things that I want to say about this. First off, in Manga Stream, they mistranslated a line of context surrounding Jack the Drought, almost exactly the same as this line was mistranslated when Jack was first introduced in the story. What am I talking about? Well, the original translation was that Jack the Drought was Kaido's right-hand man. This was a mistranslation back in the day, and should again be a mistranslation in this last chapter. Jack the Drought is not Kaido's only right-hand man. He's not one of a kind, even though right-hand man implies that. And I'm kind of disappointed in Manga Stream. The idea that this is supposed to convey is that Jack is one of Kaido's calamities, and the calamities as a group, all three of them are the top dogs, Kaido's greatest subordinates. So in the context of this line, they would all be Kaido's right-hand men. But it's still a topic of conversation since we haven't met the other calamities and haven't been given really any information about them, where Jack lines up as one of Kaido's calamities. Because we saw on Whole Cake Island, there was Katakuri, there was Smoothie, there was Cracker. All of them were Big Mom's greatest subordinates, right? But they were not equal. Katakuri was clearly the strongest and the best, the most useful. Which should be the same for Kaido's crew, we just don't know which one would be the best. But if you guys remember from older theories, the idea is that Kaido's calamities are going to be named or have some sort of relation with the names King, Queen, and Jack. Given that pretty much everybody on Kaido's crew has a name related to card games. And fans also discovered a low-key note in Oda's office that was made during some random video, which sort of suggests the same thing. Anyway, going back to Okiku's fear of Jack the Drought, she tells the Strats to not make Hold'em angry, not for his sake, but to prevent everyone getting completely destroyed and killed by Jack. And I'm gonna be honest guys, this irritated me just a little bit. Mainly because Okiku seems to have given up on rescuing Tama. Like, I'm just confused at what Okiku really wanted to accomplish or really thought was possible. You came to Bakura Town to rescue Otama, which would undoubtedly piss off whoever stole her. So no matter what, you were going to make Hold'em and Jack angrier. And so as you look upon this little girl, set between the jaws of a stomach lion, with this guy who is detestable, who's been doing all sorts of cruel things to Otama, you're just gonna decide, oh well shit, we got caught. This is futile now. We might piss off Jack, so just leave Otama there, maybe we can run away or something. I was disappointed. But I do think that this line will, for the most part, power skill most of the stronger samurai in Wano. I don't expect them to beat Jack the Drought level. At least not anybody on the allied side, with the possible exception of Shuten-Maru. And even then, I don't think so. Okiku is straight cowered by Jack. And I also think that this puts into perspective just how powerful Luffy and Zoro have become. A normal, strong person in the world of One Piece would be someone like Hold'em. Hold'em himself would be formidable to the vast majority of the One Piece world, but to Luffy and Zoro, he's a nobody, he's a nothing. They're of the elites of the elite. And I am really enjoying Oda emphasizing that. But to backtrack for just a moment, isn't it kind of surprising that when Okiku brings up angering Hold'em, she says specifically, we don't want to piss off Jack, not the boss of the entire crew, Kaido himself, nor any of his other calamities. And she goes on to say that Jack is the true ruler of Curry. So the first thing that I want to bring up is that I don't think that Kaido is actually in Wano at all. We see him, he has his favorite winter island. Every time it pans to him, he's usually there. And I don't think that that's within Wano. And I think that this will offer the Strats some little time buffer between when Kaido becomes informed of their presence in Wano and when he actually arrives. But Okiku states that Jack is the true ruler of Curry, not of Wano Kuni. You know, I had forgotten this myself until this line, but we are still just in Curry. There are several other regions of Wano. Jack is in charge of this particular region. I suspect that the other calamities will be in charge of other regions. The Kozuki family never ruled over Wano itself. That is no longer implied in my mind. They've always ruled over Curry. So we may not actually meet the other members of the Straw Hat crew and their allies until we get to the other regions of Wano. But yeah, so Jack has been teased once again. It seems likely that he's going to show up. The Strats are going to fight him. And I think that this has been a question that we've had for the longest time, since Jack was initially introduced. Even going back to Zou, before we knew that Zunisha would swat him on sea, we wondered how were they going to fight Jack? Who was going to fight Jack? And I feel like that's still a valid question right now. I feel as though the Minks have to be present though, because of what Jack has done to them, how he has wronged them and hurt them. It would feel really wrong if they weren't present to see his defeat. In terms of matchups though, I really like Luffy versus Jack. That is my current expectation. Even if Jack is the weakest of the calamities, I think that Luffy needs to fight a Yonko commander in a way that is different from Katakuri. I always felt like, or towards the end of the fight, it became abundantly clear that Katakuri was, in a way, training Luffy, sort of egging him on, hoping that he would continue to stand up, giving him time to stand back up and show his resolve. But I feel like if Katakuri wanted to kill Luffy, he probably could have done it. I think it's time for Luffy to defeat a calamity in a traditional to the death fight. No holds barred. No asterisks and no clarification needed. Again, even though Luffy was able to defeat Cracker, he did so with the help of Nami. And I think that Jack is a perfect candidate for that, and I think that the way that Jack's powers are, how strong he is, and his attributes would be best in a fight versus Luffy. But again, let's backtrack a little bit. We're in Curry right now. This is not the capital of Wano. This is probably not where the Shogun is. There's many other regions. We don't know if the other Strats are in Curry, so why is Law here? What is unique about this place? What is it that Trafalgar Law intends on accomplishing here? And again, I think that the only thing that we can speculate that is unique is the factories and the pollution. We don't know if that's the case in the other regions. Law being a doctor makes this a perfect place to doctor. We also know how Trafalgar Law thinks and how he operates. As was in the case against Doflamingo, what did he do? He first initially tried to attack Doflamingo's factory in Dressrosa, the one that helped produce Smile, which made Kaido stronger. These factories are clearly producing something that should be making the Beast Pirates stronger, and it would not be out of the question, I think it's easy to speculate, that Law might want to destroy this. Revujo sent me a message suggesting that perhaps these factories are making some of the weapons that Kaido's Calamities and Kaido's crew are using, the poison weapons such as what Caesar created. Seems possible to me. It would also mean that the destruction of these factories would be very, very important. But yeah, there's some other odds and ends that I want to discuss about this chapter. First off, Hold'em's lying on his stomach straight up sent a hyper beam at Luffy. And I just thought that this was interesting. This is something that I didn't know that Smile Devil Fruits were capable of doing. This is almost like qualities of a mythical zone Devil Fruit. Zone type Devil Fruits typically increase one's speed, strength, endurance, gives them attributes of the animal of their fruit. But only in the case of mythical zones do these animals have magical properties. Think like Marco the Phoenix with his ability to heal. Hold'em's lion on his stomach can shoot hyper beams. I should expect more of that from other strong subordinates of Kaido who have consumed Smile fruits. Additionally, Shuten-Maru was hinted at in this chapter again. We already know that we're going to meet him. The hype is building just a little bit. It's a nice clarification that Shuten-Maru is not necessarily a huge name in Wano itself, but is a big name in Curry. The last line of defense, you could say, in this region. Curry's own Robin Hood stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. It seems pretty clear that the next step of the Wano arc will be to defeat the beast pirates that are present in Curry in order to acquire this food, and then maybe have to defend these places from whoever tries to steal it back. Which would honestly be very similar, as we've talked about before, to the story of the Seven Samurai. But going back to Shuten-Maru for a moment, it's interesting that Okiku seems to have some sort of knowledge or relationship with him. Another thing that I want to point out that I didn't understand maybe before is Otsuru said that she'd only been here for about a month. It's also possible Otsuru came from another region of Wano, not from outside of Wano, which I'll be honest with you, never made a whole lot of sense to me to begin with. But yeah guys, things in Wano are moving rapidly, but the scope of the Wano arc itself is becoming more abundantly clear with each chapter that we get. I'm curious as to what role Hawkins will play in all of this. Also worth pointing out that the other supernova are probably present again in the other regions of Wano. I'm starting to think that there are just 3, Curry being one of those 3, each ruled by a calamity, each one possessing one supernova. But yeah, as always, I'm curious as to what you guys thought about this. If you noticed something from the chapter that I might have missed, just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.